The wind howls across the abandoned fields of Ohio, carrying with it whispers from the past. A single lantern flickers in the distance, barely illuminating the path ahead. Somewhere inside the shadows, doors creak open on their own, and the faint laughter of children echoes through rooms long forgotten. Tonight, we step into places that most dare not enter, a journey where the line between life and death blurs, and the restless past refuses to remain buried. If you love exploring real haunted places and mysterious stories like this, make sure to subscribe and stay with us. Because tonight's story will take you deep into America's darkest legends. Nestled on the outskirts of a sleepy town in Louisiana, Sweetwater Mansion looks beautiful in the fading sunlight. Its tall, white columns rise like sentinels, and the gardens are overgrown yet hauntingly picturesque. Passers-by might mistake it for a historic tourist spot, but locals know better. Every whisper that drifts through its corridors seems to remind visitors that the past never truly dies here. Stories of the Sweetwater family linger in the air, the laughter of children, the hushed arguments of parents, the final, heart-wrenching cries that would never be answered. The mansion was built in 1820 by a wealthy sugarcane planter named Thomas Sweetwater. His wife, Eleanor, was known for her elegance, her refined manners, and her sudden, unexplained disappearances into the corridors late at night. Servants whispered that she was often seen conversing with unseen guests' shadows with no faces, figures that moved like mist. Tragedy struck repeatedly. 2 of the Sweetwater's children died under mysterious circumstances. Some locals said it was illness. Others believed the house itself demanded a price. Guests and workers reported feeling sudden chills, hearing doors slam without wind, and catching glimpses of figures moving silently down the hall. One former maid, now elderly and hesitant to speak of it, claimed she once found Eleanor's journal. In it were pages filled with frantic writing. "They do not sleep. They watch. I cannot leave. Thomas, you must understand, they live here as much as we do." Visitors today report the same eerie phenomena. Flashlights flicker as they pass the main hallway. Faint whispers call out names that should not exist in this world. Some say the scent of Lily, the Sweetwater family's favorite, lingers, even though the gardens have long since died. The mansion stands as a reminder that beauty can hide darkness. Its walls remember, its floors echo grief, and those brave enough to enter may find that some doors, once opened, never close the same way again. A 3-hour drive north brings us to Jefferson, Texas. At first glance, the Grove appears welcoming, a large southern home with white walls, green shutters, and a wide porch shaded by towering oaks. Children's laughter once rang here. Neighbors held garden parties in the gentle breeze, but appearances can deceive. Built in the mid-1800s, the Grove witnessed wealth, celebration, and joy. But it also bore tragedies that seemed impossible to forget. The first family faced strange accidents, dishes breaking spontaneously, shadows flickering in corners, and children reporting a woman in white watching them from the dark. The merchant's wife died mysteriously at the foot of the stairs. Rumors of a curse began circulating. Successive owners encountered illnesses, disappearances, and whispers that followed them through the hallways. When the house later became a restaurant, guests often felt sudden drops in temperature, chairs shifting on their own, and fleeting figures glimpsed in mirrors. One waitress swore she saw a man in 19th century attire reflected behind her, though no one was there. The garden, once a place of peace, now hosts whispers in the wind, shadows slipping between the trees, and a faint, almost melodic song heard when the night is still. Paranormal investigators caught orbs of light, whispers of "help me," and faint outlines of figures at windows. The Grove's history teaches one lesson. Some places are haunted not just by death, but by the stories left behind. And those stories, like the house itself, never truly fade. Hidden deep in the rolling green hills of Athens County, Ohio, lies the Patterson farmhouse. To an untrained eye, it is just another wooden relic weathered by decades of storms and time. But the locals know that this house is far from ordinary. They whisper that it is cursed, a place where sorrow lingers like a thick fog, where the living and the dead share the same breath. Built in the mid-1800s by Jesse Patterson, a hard-working farmer devoted to his land and family, the house once resonated with laughter, warmth, and life. That all ended one bitter winter night. A mysterious illness swept through the family, claiming child after child, leaving the farmhouse eerily silent by spring. Neighbors who ventured inside afterward reported overturned chairs, broken dishes, and a shattered family portrait on the floor. Some claimed Jesse's expression, frozen in death, conveyed more than grief. It spoke of something dark that had taken their lives and never let go. Even decades later, those brave enough to enter describe strange occurrences. Lights flicker in empty rooms, doors slam without warning, and cold spots follow visitors as though unseen eyes track their every step. Paranormal investigators recount soft whispers calling, "Leave us be," and shadowy shapes drifting across halls. At night, lanterns flicker in abandoned windows, and drivers passing the farmhouse report seeing a young girl standing near the gate. When they stop, she disappears, leaving behind only the faint smell of cold earth. The Patterson farmhouse is more than a building, it is a repository of grief. It is said that the spirits of those who died there are trapped, bound to the walls that witnessed their final moments. Visitors leave shaken, forever feeling the weight of unseen eyes upon them. In Cleveland's historic Ohio City neighborhood stands Franklin Castle, a mansion so imposing that even the bravest locals whisper its name with caution. Built in the late 1800s by German immigrant Hannes Tedman, it rises with towers like watchful eyes, twisting staircases, and intricate woodwork. From the very beginning, tragedy seemed to shadow the Tedman family. Within a few years, 4 children died mysteriously. The mother passed away, and the rumors of a family curse spread like wildfire. Hannes became reclusive, obsessively constructing secret rooms and passageways, many of which still hide unseen horrors. Guests and investigators report phantom figures, shadowy presences, and ghostly cries echoing from the attic. Some claim Hannes himself roams the halls at night, boots heavy on the creaking floor, seeking redemption or revenge. Franklin Castle is more than haunted. It is alive with sorrow. Lights flicker, doors slam violently, and the air carries whispers of tragedies long past. Paranormal evidence captures glowing mists, faces in corners, and unexplained sounds. Even today, locals avoid the mansion after dark. They say the spirits of the Tedman family linger, and the house itself remembers every secret, every cry, every life it has claimed. Perched on a hill overlooking the Ohio River in Commemory, Wildermouth Mansion looms silently, its cracked columns and overgrown gardens betraying its former grandeur. Built by one of the wealthiest families in the 19th century, it was a symbol of refinement and status. But the mansion is no longer filled with laughter. Children died young, illnesses plagued the family, and servants spoke of strange figures moving through the halls. After the last Wildermouth passed, mysterious occurrences escalated, flickering lights, doors opening on their own, strange animal-like sounds, and shadows that moved with purpose. Those who have ventured inside report a sense of being watched constantly, cold drafts, and the faint sound of a low hum vibrating through walls. Some claim to have seen a pale woman in a flowing gown, the ghost of a young daughter lost to fever, eternally waiting for someone who will never return. Cameras have captured strange flashes of light, figures crawling along ceilings, and investigators have left shaken by what they've witnessed. Wildermouth Mansion is a house that does not forget, and it does not forgive. In Miami, Ohio, the Dick's Fairweather House rises quietly, its tall windows and weathered siding hinting at a history thick with sorrow and mystery. Built in the early 19th century, it was home to the Fairweathers, including Aunt Phoebe, a figure whose presence remains central to the house's haunted reputation. Visitors report chills in empty rooms, footsteps pacing upstairs, and fleeting shadowy figures. Aunt Phoebe is said to appear unexpectedly, silent, wearing long-period clothing, her gaze both kind and sorrowful. Some psychics claim her spirit remains to protect the house, maintaining a connection with the living. Researchers have recorded unexplained sounds, camera malfunctions, and captured ghostly shapes. The house seems alive, retaining the memory of every sorrow, every secret, and every presence it has held over centuries. In the heart of Columbus, Ohio, tucked along a quiet tree-lined street, sits the modest brick home once inhabited by James Thurber, America's beloved humorist and cartoonist. Though it seems unassuming, the house carries an unusual aura, a subtle reminder that the past does not always rest quietly. Visitors report sudden drops in temperature, shadowy figures darting in the corners of their vision, and the faint scratching of a pen, as though Thurber's presence still lingers over his old study. Some claim to hear laughter rising and falling softly, reminiscent of the whimsical cartoons he drew, yet somehow imbued with an eerie undertone. Even the garden outside whispers stories. On windy nights, the creak of the old wooden gate sounds almost rhythmic, like a secret knock seeking attention. Locals tell tales of a faint figure glimpsed at the doorway, silhouetted in moonlight, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. Unlike other haunted locations, Thurber House's spirits are subtle, contemplative, and even gentle. They leave an impression of lingering creativity, watching over anyone who enters, as though granting them a glimpse into the mind of the late humorist. At a quiet crossroads in Coshocton, Ohio, stands the Corner House, notorious for the legend of the woman in black. Its broken windows and weathered facade seem innocuous during the day, yet at night, it transforms into a place of tension and unease. Local legend tells that the woman in black is tied to an untimely tragedy, either a lost family member or an unfortunate visitor. Those who enter report cold drafts, doors opening on their own, and the oppressive sensation of being watched. Shadowy figures appear at the edges of vision, vanishing when confronted directly. Ghost hunters have noted anomalous activity. Audio recorders capture soft, sorrowful whispers. Cameras reveal fleeting silhouettes, and some visitors feel a tug on their sleeves, as though the woman herself is reaching out. The Corner House is a haunting testament to grief that refuses to fade, echoing the lives cut short within its walls. In Jefferson, Texas, Sweetwater Mansion sits like a relic of bygone grandeur. Its white walls and green shutters hide a dark history. Locals speak of ghostly figures wandering its halls, unseen eyes following every step, and a palpable weight in the air that chills the soul. Originally built in the mid-19th century, the mansion witnessed joy, sorrow, and tragedy. Families who lived there experienced sudden deaths, unexplained illnesses, and a haunting presence that seemed to grow stronger with each passing generation. Visitors today recount cold drafts, mysterious whispers, and fleeting shadows. Some claim to have felt gentle touches on their shoulders or caught a glimpse of figures in period clothing standing silently in the corner. Sweetwater Mansion serves as a reminder that beauty can conceal darkness, and that the past never truly dies here. Hidden deep in the rolling hills of Athens County, Ohio, the Jesse Patterson farmhouse has long been a place shrouded in whispers and mystery. Its weathered wood and peeling paint give little hint of the dark history contained within. Locals call it cursed, a house where the line between the living and the dead has blurred. Built in the mid-1800s by Jesse Patterson, a hard-working farmer devoted to his family, the farmhouse once resonated with laughter and warmth. But one bitter winter night, tragedy struck. Sickness spread through the family like wildfire. Children succumbed one by one, and the house soon fell silent. When neighbors finally entered, they found signs of chaos: overturned chairs, shattered dishes, and a family portrait lying face down on the floor. Some say Jesse Patterson's expression, frozen in death, reflected a terror beyond illness, something that had come to claim more than life. Since then, paranormal activity has been constant. Lights glow in empty windows after midnight, and soft children's laughter rises and falls in the halls. Shadowy figures drift through rooms, cold spots appear and vanish, and visitors often feel unseen hands brushing their shoulders. Some have claimed to see Jesse Patterson himself, gazing into the hearth that no longer burns. Despite decades of abandonment, the farmhouse remains alive with lingering energy, a chilling testament to the tragedy that befell the Patterson family and the spirits that refuse to move on. In Cleveland's Ohio City neighborhood stands Franklin Castle, a Victorian mansion whose beauty conceals a legacy of grief and misfortune. Built by wealthy German immigrant Hannes Tedman in the late 1800s, the home boasts towering staircases, elaborate woodwork, and secret passageways, yet within its walls, darkness thrived. The Tedman family suffered repeated tragedies. 4 of Hannes's children died under mysterious circumstances, followed by the deaths of his wife and mother. Grief transformed Hannes into a reclusive and erratic figure. He built secret rooms, hidden tunnels, and narrow staircases that led nowhere. Locals whispered that these were constructed to hide something or someone. Strange occurrences have persisted for over a century. Ghostly figures appear at windows or staircases, footsteps echo in empty halls, and lights flicker without cause. Paranormal investigators report malfunctioning equipment, eerie voices caught on recorders, and fleeting touches by unseen hands. Franklin Castle is more than a haunted mansion. It is a vessel of sorrow. Each creaking floorboard seems to tell the story of a family tormented beyond death. Visitors leave with a chilling realization. The house remembers every secret, every cry, every tragedy. Overlooking the town of Pomeroy, Ohio, Wildermuth Mansion stands abandoned, yet its presence is palpable. Built by one of the wealthiest families in Meigs County during the 1850s, the mansion was designed to impress with grand pillars, winding staircases, and ornate chandeliers. But tragedy seemed to follow the Wildermuths relentlessly. Children died young, illness haunted the household, and servants whispered that the house itself mourned. Even after the family vanished, the mansion remained alive with inexplicable phenomena. Visitors hear footsteps pacing empty rooms, see shadowy creatures moving across the lawn, and feel the sensation of unseen eyes tracking their every move. Some report pale women standing at the top of staircases, silently observing, waiting for someone who never arrives. Paranormal investigators describe the mansion as a confusing, ever-shifting place. Cameras capture flashes of light and indistinct figures crawling across ceilings, while recorders pick up low growls and whispers. Some claim the house hums at night, vibrating with a strange energy that feels almost alive. Wildermuth Mansion is not just haunted, it is a living memory of a family lost, tragedy endured, and secrets hidden within walls that refuse to forget. In Maumee, Ohio, the Dix Fairweather House rises with solemnity. Its weathered wood and tall windows hint at stories of both life and death, and locals speak of its aura of unease. Known for the spirit of Aunt Phoebe, the house blurs the line between the living and the dead. Aunt Phoebe, beloved in life and mysterious in death, reportedly appears at unexpected times, often by fireplaces or staircases. She does not speak, but her presence is felt watching, guiding, or sometimes warning. Visitors recount sudden chills, the distant creak of rocking chairs, and soft whispers calling their names. Even locals who pass by at night feel a subtle sense of dread. Shadows twist unnaturally in the windows, and faint voices seem to call out to those daring to approach. Paranormal investigators report failing equipment, strange noises, and ghostly shapes appearing where no one stands. The Dix Fairweather House serves as a chilling reminder. Some spirits linger not in anger, but in a devotion that transcends life, ensuring the past is never truly gone. Tucked away in Columbus, Ohio, Thurber House was home to James Thurber, America's famed humorist. Though modest, it holds subtle but persistent paranormal activity. Shadowy figures move in the corners of rooms. The sound of pencils scratching paper echoes through empty studies, and faint laughter fills the hallways, playful yet eerie. Visitors often sense a presence, as if Thurber himself is observing, leaving a lingering impression of creativity, melancholy, and whimsy. The garden, gate, and surrounding area are not exempt. Shadows flicker and movements appear in moonlight. Paranormal investigators have noted inexplicable phenomena, yet all signs point to a haunting that is more contemplative than malevolent. Thurber House is a subtle, gentle haunting, a spirit lingering not to frighten, but to preserve the memory of creativity, human emotion, and the essence of a life once lived. The corner house sits at the crossroads of Coshocton, Ohio, notorious for the woman in black. The house is abandoned, yet a dark presence persists. Locals whisper of the figure appearing silently in windows or gliding along hallways. Visitors report cold drafts, doors opening on their own, and shadowy figures vanishing when confronted. Ghost hunters capture faint whispers, sudden tugs on sleeves, and fleeting images in photos. The woman in black embodies grief and sorrow, trapped in a cycle that leaves the house heavy with unease. The corner house reminds all who pass. Some tragedies linger indefinitely, and some spirits refuse to rest. Nestled on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina, Bellwood Estate has long been whispered about by locals. Its sprawling mansion, surrounded by magnolia trees and creeping ivy, appears elegant in daylight but transforms into something unsettling at night. Built in 1832 by plantation owner Jonathan Bellwood, the estate was intended as a symbol of wealth and sophistication. But beneath the surface, tragedy quickly took root. Bellwood's family suffered a series of unexplained deaths, including the mysterious disappearance of his eldest daughter, Clara, whose room remains untouched, preserved in the state it was found. Visitors report a chilling presence, especially in Clara's room. Cold air sweeps through, doors slam without cause, and shadows seem to move independently of light. One night, a caretaker heard the faint sound of a piano playing from the parlor, though the instrument had been removed decades ago. Paranormal investigators describe a heavy energy that pervades the entire estate, often felt as an oppressive weight on the chest. Some report seeing fleeting figures in antebellum attire or hearing whispers in the hallways calling out, "Clara, come back." Bellwood Estate stands today as a testament to loss, mystery, and a past that refuses to be forgotten. In the historic city of Savannah, Georgia, Ravenscroft Hall is a mansion steeped in legend. Its Gothic architecture, iron railings, and ivy-covered facade hint at both elegance and eerie mystery. Locals often cross the street to avoid its shadow, especially after dark. Constructed in the late 1700s, Ravenscroft Hall was home to the Ravenscroft family, who were deeply involved in Savannah's early trade industry. Accounts of murders, sudden illnesses, and strange disappearances are tied to the estate. Some historians claim the hall was built atop land used for secret societies and occult practices, contributing to the mansion's enduring supernatural activity. Visitors often speak of sudden temperature drops, unexplained whispers, and shadowy figures lingering in corridors. One historian recounts seeing a lady in a flowing black gown standing at a window, only to vanish moments later. Objects move seemingly by themselves, and recordings capture faint chanting in languages no one present understands. Ravenscroft Hall embodies Savannah's dark history, beautiful, grand, yet a constant reminder that wealth and elegance cannot shield a home from tragedy or the spirits that linger. Hidden behind wrought iron gates and overgrown gardens, Hawthorne Manor in New Orleans, Louisiana, is a house where the living and dead coexist. Built in 1850, the mansion is renowned for its tragic history and paranormal reports. Originally owned by Dr. Louis Hawthorne, the manor was the site of several mysterious deaths. His family vanished over the course of a single winter, leaving the estate abandoned. Neighbors reported ghostly figures roaming the gardens and lantern lights glowing in empty rooms. Paranormal investigators have documented disembodied footsteps, cold drafts, and fleeting visions of shadowy figures in period clothing. Some claim the spirits are protective, appearing to ward off intruders, while others report a sense of overwhelming sorrow permeating the halls. Hawthorne Manor is emblematic of New Orleans' reputation for blending history, tragedy, and supernatural energy. Every corner tells a story and every shadow seems alive. Ashwood Asylum, abandoned since the early 1900s, sits on the outskirts of Boston. Once a mental institution, it is now infamous for ghost stories and eerie occurrences. Patients' records suggest mistreatment, mysterious deaths, and unethical experiments, fueling the building's haunted reputation. Visitors report hearing faint screams echoing through empty hallways and doors opening on their own. Cold spots appear randomly, and shadowy figures linger at the edges of vision. Paranormal teams often capture disembodied voices on recorders, whispering, "Help me, leave me." Ashwood's dark history, combined with its deteriorating infrastructure, creates an environment that is not only frightening but also deeply tragic. The building serves as a reminder of the suffering that once took place and the lingering presence of souls who may never have left. Deep in the Smoky Mountains, Whitmore Cabin appears picturesque from afar. Surrounded by mist and dense forest, it seems like a retreat for nature lovers. Yet locals warn that it is haunted, a place where the mountains hide sorrow and terror alike. Built in the 1800s by the Whitmore family, the cabin was the site of multiple accidental deaths, strange illnesses, and mysterious disappearances. Witnesses have reported hearing chains dragging across floors, whispering voices in the woods, and fleeting figures staring from the tree line. Paranormal investigators describe strong energy fields, often felt as sudden drops in temperature or a sensation of being followed. Shadowy figures, often described as translucent or partially visible, appear in photographs and videos without explanation. Whitmore Cabin exemplifies the remote, untamed horrors of rural America, a haunting both natural and supernatural, where the forest itself seems to watch and remember. On the rugged coast of Maine, Blackwater Lodge has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted sites in the region. Its dark, looming silhouette against the foggy shoreline makes it seem alive with secrets. Built in 1820 as a summer retreat for a wealthy family, tragedy struck early when several members drowned in a boating accident nearby. Since then, guests and locals report hearing cries over the water, objects moving on their own, and apparitions appearing at windows overlooking the harbor. Investigators have captured orbs of light drifting through hallways and shadowy figures reflected in mirrors. Some claim to hear whispers warning them to leave, while others feel invisible hands brushing their shoulders. Blackwater Lodge remains abandoned for decades, yet its presence is felt by anyone who approaches. The crashing waves outside serve as a haunting echo of the lives lost, and the building itself seems to mourn. Nestled in a dense forest in New Hampshire, Carrington House looks charming in the sunlight but transforms after dusk. Built in 1845 by a lumber magnate, the estate has witnessed multiple tragedies, including sudden illnesses and unexplained deaths. Locals tell tales of shadowy figures walking the grounds at night, doors opening without explanation, and the faint smell of burning wood when no fire is present. Paranormal investigators have recorded whispers calling names of past residents and fleeting apparitions that vanish upon approach. Carrington House is a chilling reminder that even idyllic forest retreats can harbor dark secrets and restless spirits. Ironwood Mill, abandoned since the early 1900s, sits at the edge of a small Pennsylvania town. Once a bustling sawmill, the building became infamous after a series of accidents claimed the lives of workers. Visitors report hearing machinery running in empty halls, sudden temperature drops, and ghostly figures moving among the remnants of old equipment. Some claim the spirits are trapped in a loop, endlessly reliving their final moments. Paranormal teams have captured EVP's electronic voice phenomena, recordings of cries and commands, and unexplained shadows often appear in photographs. Ironwood Mill stands as a monument to industrial tragedy, haunted by the echoes of those who died within its walls. Hawthorne House in Connecticut has long been the subject of ghost stories. Built in 1802, it has passed through generations of the Hawthorne family, many of whom met untimely deaths under mysterious circumstances. Visitors often speak of unexplained noises, footsteps, doors creaking, and soft laughter. Shadow figures appear in corners, and objects have been reported moving without cause. Paranormal investigators describe a heavy, almost suffocating energy that seems to linger throughout the house. The house's history of tragedy and strange occurrences makes it a chilling example of a home where sorrow and spirits coexist. Redcliffe Manor, perched atop a hill in Virginia, was once a luxurious estate. Constructed in 1850, it became infamous due to a series of murders and disappearances within the family. Visitors often experience cold drafts, whispers in empty rooms, and shadowy figures that vanish when approached. Paranormal researchers report flickering lights, doors opening on their own, and objects mysteriously rearranging themselves. Redcliffe Manor stands today as a somber reminder of human tragedy, with its halls echoing the secrets of the past. Deep in the Colorado Rockies, Silver Pine Cabin appears as a peaceful retreat. Built in the late 1800s, it has seen its share of accidents, mysterious deaths, and disappearances. Visitors report hearing footsteps in empty rooms, the sensation of being watched, and doors that close without wind. Some claim to see shadowy figures standing silently in corners, vanishing when approached. Silver Pine Cabin represents the isolation of mountain life and the lingering presence of the spirits who once lived there, making it a hauntingly unforgettable location. Marrow House, a Victorian mansion in rural Illinois, has a history shrouded in mystery. Built in 1875, several generations of the Marrow family reportedly met untimely deaths. Visitors often notice sudden temperature drops, hear whispers in hallways, and see fleeting silhouettes. Paranormal investigators have captured shadow figures on camera and EVP recordings of faint voices pleading for help. Marrow House is a chilling testament to family tragedy, the passage of time, and spirits that refuse to leave. Blackthorn Asylum, abandoned since 1920, is infamous for dark experiments conducted on patients. Located outside Detroit, it has become a magnet for ghost hunters and thrill seekers alike. Those who enter report screams echoing through hallways, shadowy figures in patient rooms, and doors opening and closing on their own. Paranormal investigations have revealed EVP recordings of crying and whispers commanding visitors to leave. The asylum is a stark reminder of human cruelty and the lingering energy of those who suffered within its walls. Wonderful Estate, set in snowy Wisconsin landscapes, has stood abandoned for decades. Built in 1860, the mansion became notorious for the sudden deaths of its residents. Visitors report seeing shadowy figures moving through rooms, hearing whispers calling their names, and objects inexplicably falling or moving. Paranormal investigators describe cold spots and disembodied voices captured on audio devices. Winterfell Estate embodies the isolation and sorrow of a bygone era, with spirits lingering long after life has left its halls. Perched on a hill overlooking dense Oregon forests, Black Ridge Manor is a Victorian mansion with a dark reputation. Constructed in 1885, a series of tragic events, including deaths by fire and unexplained disappearances, has left the house shrouded in mystery. Visitors report feeling watched, hearing footsteps in empty corridors, and seeing shadowy figures standing silently in the corners. Paranormal teams have captured EVP recordings, ghostly orbs, and fleeting apparitions that vanish when approached. Black Ridge Manor remains abandoned, but not empty. Its history, tragedies, and lingering spirits make it one of the most chilling locations in Oregon. The wind howls through the abandoned streets of a forgotten town, carrying whispers of stories no one dared to tell. A single lantern flickers in the darkness, revealing a shadow that shouldn't exist, yet it does. Welcome to a journey through America's most haunted places, where history bleeds into the present, and the living brush against the restless dead. If you love exploring real haunted places and mysterious stories like this, make sure to subscribe and stay with us, because tonight's story will take you deep into America's darkest legends. Charleston's streets are steeped in history, from cobblestone alleys to grand antebellum mansions. But hidden among these historic homes lies the Holloway Estate, a place locals avoid after sunset. The mansion, built in 1823 by a wealthy shipping magnate, once echoed with music, laughter, and lavish parties. But tragedy struck early. The Holloway family suffered a sudden illness that claimed the lives of the matriarch and 2 children. Since then, the house has been a repository of unease. Visitors report seeing figures in period clothing floating silently along the hallways, disappearing when approached. Some feel icy hands brushing their arms or hear faint piano notes in rooms long abandoned. Paranormal investigators describe a heavy, oppressive energy that seems to anchor itself in the east wing of the mansion. Every creak of the floorboards carries a history of grief, betrayal, and secrets buried deep within the walls. Ravenwood Hospital opened its doors in 1905 as a place for the mentally ill. Over decades, it became infamous for its inhumane treatments and unexplained patient disappearances. The hospital closed in the 1980s, but the echoes of screams, chains dragging, and desperate whispers remain. Those brave enough to enter describe cold drafts that cut through the building, shadows darting just beyond vision, and the overwhelming sensation of being watched. One investigator recounts standing in the old electroshock room, hearing a woman sobbing in the corner. When he turned, the room was empty, yet the smell of antiseptic and decay lingered. A hallway camera captured fleeting images of figures that seemed distorted, neither fully human nor entirely ghostly. Ravenwood Hospital stands as a chilling reminder that human cruelty often leaves a spiritual scar that never fades. Perched on a cliff, battered by relentless Atlantic storms, the Waverly Lighthouse has guided sailors for over a century. But behind its beacon lies a darker tale. In 1921, the lighthouse keeper's family mysteriously vanished during a winter storm. The only evidence left was a diary filled with cryptic warnings. They are not lost. They are here, waiting. Visitors report seeing figures on the cliff edge at night, staring into the churning sea. Some hear footsteps echoing up the spiral staircase even when no one is inside. Lighthouse historians speculate that the spirits of the lost family linger, bound to the lighthouse and the sea that took them. Fishermen avoid the cliffs after dark, claiming a cold hand grips their shoulders, and unseen voices call their names from the waves. Savannah is famous for its haunting beauty, and Black Hollow Manor exemplifies it. Built in 1858, the manor belonged to the Blackwell family, who were prominent in the cotton trade. Accounts of hauntings began shortly after the Civil War, with servants reporting shadowy figures in the corridors, whispers of old family secrets, and furniture moving on its own. One legend tells of a hidden room behind the library, where the Blackwells allegedly imprisoned a daughter accused of witchcraft. Visitors claim the room is still accessible, its door invisible until the right moment. Some have felt invisible hands push them out when they try to enter. Paranormal experts describe Black Hollow as a psychic mirror, reflecting both the sorrow of the living and the unrest of the dead. Nestled in the Rocky Mountains, Silver Pine Asylum operated from 1890 to 1965. Originally a tuberculosis hospital, It was converted into a psychiatric asylum during the early 20th century. Patients were subjected to experimental treatments, often in isolation. After its closure, the asylum became a hotspot for ghost hunters. Visitors recount hearing screams from empty rooms, doors slamming with violent force, and apparitions of nurses moving silently through the halls. A particularly chilling account involves a visitor standing in the central hallway, feeling icy hands grasp their shoulders and hearing the faint echo of a lullaby sung to patients long deceased. Researchers describe Silver Pine as one of the most energetically dense haunted locations in the country, a place where human suffering has left a permanent imprint. In the town of Salem, infamous for its witch trials, Hawthorne Mansion stands as a remnant of colonial ambition and darkness. Constructed in 1692, the mansion has been linked to stories of witchcraft, disappearances, and dark rituals. Locals report seeing shadowy figures in the windows, even when the house is empty. Cold spots appear suddenly, and whispers in archaic English fill the hallways. Paranormal experts suggest that Hawthorne Mansion may act as a spiritual nexus, connecting the modern world with past horrors that refuse to fade. In the swamps outside New Orleans, the Marlowe plantation has a history soaked in blood and sorrow. Built in 1812, it was the site of both wealth and brutality. Slave quarters remain intact, and many believe the spirits of those who suffered there continue to roam the grounds. Visitors report ghostly apparitions in tattered clothing, moans carried on the wind, and sudden drops in temperature. Some claim to see children playing near the riverbank, only to vanish when approached. Paranormal investigators have captured orbs, misty figures, and audio recordings of voices pleading for freedom. In the rolling hills outside Richmond, Ravenscroft Manor has stood since 1807. Built by the Ravenscroft family, wealthy landowners, the mansion quickly became infamous for tragic events. Several family members died under mysterious circumstances, sudden illnesses, accidents, or disappearances that were never explained. Visitors described cold drafts moving against the flow of air, shadowy figures gliding silently across grand ballrooms, and portraits of past Ravenscrofts whose eyes seemed to follow every movement. One paranormal investigator reported hearing a child crying in the West Wing, even though the manor had been empty for decades. Another witness felt the brush of an unseen hand along the back of their neck while exploring the servants' quarters. Locals whisper that Ravenscroft Manor is cursed, a place where sorrow accumulates and never leaves. Built in 1843, Thornfield House sits quietly along a rural road outside Philadelphia. Its brick walls hide a turbulent history, including unexplained deaths and rumors of occult rituals. Guests report hearing voices whispering in empty hallways, objects moving without explanation, and sudden cold spots that freeze breath in midair. A photographer captured a faint silhouette of a woman at the top of the staircase, her face pale, expressionless, and eyes hollow. Paranormal investigators suggest that the spirits of Thornfield are tied not only to tragic events but also to intense human emotions, grief, fear, and anger trapped within the house. Not all haunted locations are buildings. Pinehurst Cemetery, established in 1790, has a reputation as one of New England's most active paranormal sites. Visitors report shadowy figures moving between tombstones, whispers calling out names, and sudden drops in temperature. Paranormal experts often capture EVP recordings of voices asking for help or crying out in despair. Some claim to have seen ghostly apparitions of mourners dressed in early colonial clothing, silently wandering the grounds. Locals warn that Pinehurst Cemetery is a place where the boundary between the living and the dead grows thin, especially on foggy nights. Deep in the bayous of Louisiana lies Blackwater Swamp, a place steeped in legends and ghost stories. Locals speak of spirits of long-dead settlers, drowned travelers, and mysterious creatures that haunt the waters. Visitors often report hearing whispers on the wind, cold hands brushing against skin, and shadows moving just beyond the tree line. One explorer recounted seeing a boat appear on the water with no rower and vanish before their eyes. The swamp is known for a heavy, oppressive energy, and many believe that anyone who enters after dark risks never returning the same. Ashcroft Mansion, built in 1875, is located on the outskirts of Trenton. The mansion is a mix of Victorian elegance and dark history. Reports include hearing the sound of laughter echoing through empty hallways, sudden cold spots, and apparitions dressed in 19th century attire. One visitor recalled seeing a woman in a black gown standing by the staircase, only for her to vanish when approached. Paranormal investigators suggest that Ashcroft Mansion's history, filled with sudden deaths, betrayals, and unexplained disappearances, left a permanent imprint on the building, creating a hotspot for supernatural activity. Hollow Creek Asylum, a psychiatric hospital from 1902 to 1960, is located near Portland, Oregon. Its halls are infamous for the screams, moans, and cries of patients subjected to experimental treatments. Visitors report doors opening and closing on their own, shadowy figures pacing the hallways, and cold air that appears in rooms with no windows. Some paranormal investigators experienced intense nausea or headaches while inside, attributing it to negative spiritual energy. Witnesses have reported seeing spectral nurses and patients wandering silently, trapped forever in the echo of their suffering. The Whitmore House, a colonial-era home in Concord, New Hampshire, is renowned for ghostly activity. Built in 1735, it has survived fires, floods, and multiple ownership changes. Visitors report hearing footsteps in empty rooms, doors slamming, and whispers calling out names. A local historian claimed to see a figure of a woman in period attire looking out the window, only to vanish when approached. Paranormal teams captured strange orbs of light, unexplained shadows, and audio of a soft lullaby echoing through the old parlor. The Whitmore House seems to preserve the echoes of multiple centuries of life, grief, and secrets. Black Ridge Hotel, a once luxurious resort in Reno, Nevada, closed abruptly in the 1980s after multiple incidents of mysterious deaths and disappearances. Guests report seeing figures in hallways, hearing doors slam violently without cause, and the sensation of invisible hands brushing their shoulders. Paranormal investigators captured faint whispering, objects moving on their own, and sudden drops in temperature. Locals warn that the hotel is cursed, a place where restless spirits of guests and staff linger, bound by trauma and tragedy that never left. Greystone Plantation, built in 1820 near Charleston, South Carolina, was once home to a wealthy cotton merchant family. Its history is stained with tragedy. Several family members died unexpectedly, slaves were rumored to have been mistreated, and mysterious fires destroyed parts of the estate. Visitors report hearing the faint sound of chains dragging across the floor, whispers in empty rooms, and sudden chills that make skin crawl. One explorer recounted seeing a figure in colonial attire staring silently from the balcony. Paranormal investigators captured EVP recordings of voices saying, "Leave now," or "We are watching." Many locals avoid the plantation after sunset, claiming that those who linger too long feel a heavy, oppressive presence. Perched on the jagged cliffs of Maine, Hawthorne Lighthouse has guided ships safely for over a century. Yet, its keepers' quarters hide a dark secret. Several lighthouse keepers vanished without a trace, and visitors report hearing cries for help carried by the wind. Paranormal sightings include shadowy figures on the cliffs, unexplained light flashes, and disembodied footsteps inside the tower. One tourist claimed to see the apparition of a man staring down from the light chamber, only to disappear when approached. Locals warn, do not linger when the fog rolls in. The sea keeps its secrets, and sometimes it sends them ashore. The Greaves House, a two-story brick mansion near Louisville, Kentucky, is infamous for the untimely deaths of several family members over generations. Visitors report hearing whispers calling their names, furniture moving by itself, and sudden drops in temperature. One paranormal investigator felt a hand on his shoulder while alone in the attic, even though no one else was there. Locals say the house is cursed, with the spirits of past residents lingering in sorrow, anger, or unrest. Hidden deep in Montana's forests, Black Hollow Cabin was built in the late 1800s as a logging retreat. Its remote location makes it especially eerie. Visitors report hearing footsteps in the snow outside when no one is around, whispers in the cabin at night, and shadows moving just beyond the candlelight. One hiker claimed to see a figure standing in the doorway, wearing period clothing and staring silently. Paranormal investigators report sudden equipment malfunctions and disorienting sensations, suggesting that the cabin has a powerful, malevolent energy. Eastwick Asylum, a psychiatric hospital opened in 1895 near Albany, New York, closed in the 1960s under mysterious circumstances. Visitors and investigators report disembodied voices, the sound of rolling wheelchairs, and doors slamming without explanation. Some claim to see spectral patients wandering the hallways or a nurse in early 20th century attire gliding silently past them. Paranormal teams have captured EVP recordings saying, "Help us," or "Stay away." The asylum's dark past, mistreatment, deaths, and unexplained disappearances continues to haunt those who enter. Waverly Mansion, built in 1830 near Memphis, Tennessee, was the site of several violent family disputes and untimely deaths. Visitors report hearing voices, sudden cold spots, and seeing figures moving silently across rooms. One guest described seeing a man in 19th century attire pacing the veranda at dusk, vanishing when approached. Paranormal investigators note that the house retains intense emotional energy, causing visitors to feel anxiety, fear, or sadness. Once a luxurious beachfront hotel in Clearwater, Florida, this building fell into disrepair after multiple mysterious deaths of staff and guests. Visitors report flickering lights, moving objects, and hearing whispering voices in empty hallways. One visitor saw a young woman in a vintage swimsuit standing on the balcony, vanishing moments later. Paranormal teams note that the hotel's energy is strongest at night, especially near rooms where previous tragedies occurred. The abandoned St. Elmo Church in the Rocky Mountains was built in 1870 and quickly became infamous for mysterious accidents and tragic deaths of clergy members. Visitors report seeing shadowy figures in pews, hearing whispers, and cold drafts moving against the wind. One paranormal investigator claimed to see a priestly figure standing at the altar, glowing faintly before disappearing. The church is considered highly haunted, especially at dusk when the shadows stretch long across its stone walls. Redfern Estate, near Detroit, Michigan, is a Victorian-era mansion with a history of unexplained tragedies, including sudden deaths, fires, and disappearances. Visitors report hearing laughter echoing in empty rooms, shadowy figures moving silently, and cold air descending unexpectedly. Paranormal teams have captured recordings of voices saying, "You shouldn't be here." Locals warn that the estate carries a malevolent energy, strongest during the night hours. Ravenwood Farmhouse, built in 1845 near Lancaster, Pennsylvania, was once home to a prosperous Quaker family. Over generations, the family suffered several unexplained deaths. Some locals claim the land itself is cursed, noting strange shadows moving across the fields at night. Visitors report hearing footsteps in the barn, whispers in the hallways, and seeing shadowy figures in old photographs taken on the property. Paranormal investigators often experience sudden chills, disorientation, and the sensation of being watched. Some claim to see the faint figure of a child wandering the halls, vanishing when approached. Located just outside Richmond, Virginia, Marlowe Mansion was constructed in 1820 and has a dark history of violent deaths and disappearances. Visitors report hearing screams in empty rooms, doors slamming without cause, and the smell of smoke with no fire present. One guest recounted seeing a woman in a long, dark dress standing at the top of the staircase, silently watching. Paranormal investigators describe electronic devices failing, flashlights flickering, and strange orbs of light appearing in photographs. Abandoned since the 1960s, Thornfield Asylum sits atop a hill overlooking a small Maine town. Its dark history includes patient neglect, unexplained deaths, and whispered rumors of cruel experiments. Visitors report hearing laughter and crying echoing through empty hallways. Some see shadowy figures behind barred windows, while others feel sudden cold drafts or phantom touches. Paranormal investigators often hear disembodied voices calling out patient names, and some have captured shadowy figures in photographs appearing and disappearing in seconds. Hollow Creek Cabin, nestled in dense Oregon forests, was built in 1890 as a remote retreat for loggers. Over the decades, multiple occupants have reported sightings of figures watching from the tree line, mysterious lights at night, and unexplained sounds. Visitors describe cold spots moving through rooms, the smell of smoke with no source, and sudden feelings of dread. One hiker claimed to see a figure standing at the cabin doorway, dressed in 19th century work clothes, silently observing before vanishing. Paranormal investigators note high levels of electromagnetic disturbances and strange equipment malfunctions. Standing on the Louisiana Gulf Coast since 1872, Blackwater Lighthouse has long been linked to shipwrecks, missing sailors, and ghostly apparitions. Visitors report lights flickering inside the lighthouse, hearing faint cries from the sea, and seeing figures walking along the cliffs at night. One local claimed to see a ghostly keeper in old uniform tending the light. Investigators note sudden drops in temperature, disembodied whispers, and ghostly orbs appearing on cameras. Willowshade Manor, near Springfield, Illinois, is a Victorian mansion built in 1865. Its history includes mysterious fires, disappearances, and unexplained deaths among residents. Visitors report hearing whispering voices in empty rooms, doors opening and closing on their own, and sudden chills. Paranormal investigators have captured EVP recordings of voices saying, "Leave now." Some report shadowy figures gliding silently through hallways or watching from the stairwell. Locals warn that the manor is especially active on moonless nights. The Kingsley House, built in 1830 near Asheville, North Carolina, has a long history of tragedy, including violent deaths and family disputes that ended in murder. Visitors often report cold drafts, whispers, and the sensation of unseen eyes following them. One guest claimed to see a figure of a man pacing the veranda at dusk, vanishing when approached. Paranormal teams note strange electromagnetic readings, unexplained equipment failures, and occasional shadowy figures captured on camera. Located near Savannah, Georgia, the Ashwood Estate was built atop land that was once part of a historic cemetery. Visitors report ghostly apparitions wandering the grounds, strange whispers, and sudden temperature drops. Investigators have captured orbs of light, disembodied voices, and fleeting shadows in photographs. Locals say the estate is particularly active near the old mausoleum, with visitors claiming to hear soft crying and chanting at night. Greyhaven Plantation, constructed in 1835 near Natchez, Mississippi, carries a legacy of wealth built on slavery and tragedy. Stories speak of sudden deaths, mysterious disappearances, and servants who refuse to stay after sunset. Visitors report hearing chains dragging across the floors, whispers in empty hallways, and shadowy figures watching from the veranda. Paranormal investigators note cold spots, flickering lights, and ghostly apparitions of figures in antebellum clothing wandering the property. Some guests claim to see a woman in mourning attire staring silently from the second-floor windows. Hollow Ridge Hospital, abandoned since the 1970s, was once a psychiatric facility known for harsh treatments and patient neglect. Visitors recount hearing disembodied screams, laughter, and footsteps pacing empty hallways. Shadowy figures appear briefly in doorways or along the stairwell, vanishing when approached. Paranormal investigators report sudden EMF spikes, unexplained equipment failures, and chilling sensations of being touched by unseen hands. Some even captured EVP readings of whispers saying, "You shouldn't be here." Silver Pine Manor, built in 1880 near Albany, New York, was the site of multiple mysterious deaths within the wealthy Silver Pine family. Visitors describe feeling watched from empty rooms, hearing unexplained knocks on walls, and faint cries of children in the night. Some report seeing a woman in a flowing white gown gliding silently across hallways, disappearing into walls. Paranormal investigators have captured orbs of light, cold drafts that move unpredictably, and unexplained shadows in photographs. Located on the outskirts of Harrisburg, Thornfield Mill House dates back to 1822 and has long been linked to tragedy. Visitors report sudden chills, whispers in empty rooms, and objects moving inexplicably. Paranormal investigators have noted mysterious sounds resembling machinery operating despite the mill being long abandoned, along with fleeting shadows in the attic and main hall. One guest claimed to see a figure of a man in old miller clothing standing silently at the top of the staircase. Black Hollow Cabin, deep in the forests of Montana, was a remote homestead abandoned in the early 1900s. Visitors describe eerie feelings of being watched, cold spots, and strange animal-like sounds in the surrounding forest. Shadowy figures appear in photographs, and EVP recordings often capture whispers of names or warnings. One hiker claimed to see a lantern moving through the woods at night, seemingly held by a figure no one else could see. Built in 1855, Larkspur Estate was a grand mansion near Hartford, Connecticut, known for mysterious fires and unexplained deaths among its owners. Visitors report ghostly apparitions of men and women in 19th century clothing, hearing footsteps in empty hallways, and sudden drops in temperature. Paranormal investigators have captured EVP recordings of voices whispering, "Don't follow me," and fleeting shadows of figures vanishing into walls. Some guests report sensing a presence, silently observing from upstairs rooms. Blackthorn Schoolhouse, abandoned since the early 1900s, sits in a remote area of Vermont. Visitors describe cold drafts, sudden slamming doors, and the feeling of unseen eyes watching. Shadowy figures appear in hallways, and some report faint laughter or whispers of children echoing through empty classrooms. Paranormal investigators frequently capture AVP recordings and fleeting shapes in photographs that vanish when approached. Ashwood Manor, built in 1870 near Detroit, Michigan, has a dark history of mysterious deaths and disappearances among its residents. Visitors report seeing shadowy figures in the windows, hearing whispers in empty hallways, and experiencing sudden temperature drops. Paranormal investigators often notice equipment malfunctions, strange light anomalies, and EVP recordings of voices saying, "Go away." And so concludes our journey through some of America's most haunted and mysterious locations. Each house, cabin, and estate tells a story of tragedy, unrest, and spirits that refuse to fade. If you enjoyed this journey through America's haunted past, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. More true ghost stories are coming soon.